Hi, I'm Ed Parcaut, your host of Inner Edison. And what I'd like you to take away from today's show is our greatest growth comes from our greatest failures. Today's guest is Erik Allen. Let's get to know him and hear his story. How you doing, Erik?
I'm doing awesome. Ed, thank you so much for having me on your show, man. Truly an honor, man. Really appreciate it.
And I'm going to let my listeners know how I came across you. Basically, Instagram, right? I was looking at your post. It was right after Steve Sims' Speakeasy. Saw that you'd went to Greg Reed's, what was it called?
Prosperity Camp.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then how you got there was I stayed at a Motel 6. I was going to walk in. So you did whatever it took to become successful. Right. Yep. And I think the biggest problem today with a lot of the current generation, one, they have no soft skills because they're so used to texting each other. So they can't make a conversation. Right. They'll text for 2 weeks to answer something that would take 5 minutes on the phone or 2 minutes on the phone. Right. But I was like, okay, this guy, he's doing everything he can to become successful, and it doesn't matter where he stays. He could sleep in a car to do it. This is kind of the guy this is. I want to get to know this guy. And so that's why I reached out. Plus, I knew you had a goal to be on 100 podcasts this year.
That's true. Yeah, I appreciate it, man. It was a cool trip, man. I used air miles to get down there. Stayed at the cheapest hotel. My most expensive expenses was the Uber and Lyft ride, like from the hotel to the airport, but the whole trip cost me about $580. I paid for 2 meals and basically brought protein shake with me so I could eat that in the morning for breakfast, man. And it was awesome, man. But it was such a great event, man. Learned so much good stuff.
Where do you live in the country?
I live in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So a lot of Californians live up in that area now.
There
all
are
over Idaho.
We see more California plates sometimes than Idaho plates up here, man.
That's okay. I prefer keep going because I need them to leave so I can get all my my borrowers into new homes. So yes, totally. Keep going, keep leaving so we can get more in. We have 40 million people here in California. We can keep losing a few thousand, 100,000s, right?
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So I know you have a couple different podcasts. Let's explain the 2 different podcasts.
Yeah, so 2 podcasts, the Top Rated MMA Show. I started that in 2017. Really had no idea what I was doing. I just wanted to talk with MMA fighters and ask them why do they want to get punched in the face. And so, I started in a walk-in closet, bad lighting, bad camera, bad microphone, and just started talking with folks locally, and then it expanded globally. And now we're 240 shows in. I talk with amateur and up-and-coming pro fighters around the world and really just want to understand their story. And that drops every Saturday. And the other show is the Erik Allen show.
Hold on. Let's stay with that one for a second.
Yeah.
Are you a huge MMA fan or?
Big fan, yeah. So never fought myself. My kids are in jiu-jitsu and they love it. But I grew up watching like Bruce Lee and ninja movies and WWE and wrestling and stuff and just transitioned to that. So always been a big fan. And Top Rated MMA actually started as an apparel company in 2012. And my wife came up with the name, and then I got bored with it, put an ad in Craigslist, tried to sell the company. One guy offered me a few grand, and then I decided not to sell it. And that's when the podcast started in 2017.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And then your other podcast is?
The other show is called the Erik Allen Show. It used to be called the Bearded Biz Show when I first started. And my wife, being the smart one again, said, hey, I think you're niching down too much. People are thinking it's a beard podcast, things like that. And so I changed the name to Erik Allen Show. But really that show started because I came across a guy named Ed Milet online. And I was like, holy crap, this guy's amazing. He's like speaking right to me. And I wanted to like do what he was doing and talk with these really cool people. And a lot of his guests have now been on my show, which has been great. And then it helped when I won the Ed Milet Max Out Challenge in 2018. I got to have a phone call with Ed, and it changed my life forever. And I was able to record that and release that as episode 12 of my podcast, which is now 119 episodes in at this time. And, that's where I talk with entrepreneurs, world changers, and success-minded people, and really just want to hear their stories and find out why they want to get punched in the face as entrepreneurs. Hopefully not physically, but we go through rejections and no's and failures, but we keep going, right? And so that's why that's what that show is all about.
That's why I do this show, Inner Edison. Our greatest accomplishments come from our greatest defeats, because if you don't realize that, you're going to, you have to understand you're going to fail. Yep. What did you learn from it? How can you move forward? But I want to go back to the thing that you won, the Ed
Milet Max Out Challenge.
Yeah. So for my listeners aren't going to probably understand what that is. So explain that.
Yeah. So what he did was, at the time, he had about 1 million followers on Instagram, and he said, submit a 1-minute story of what you're passionate about. Why do you want to be successful? What is your business? What is it that drives you? I created this 1-minute video and I sent it in via stories to him. And he kept posting all these things like, hey, this is a top runner. This is a top runner. And I wasn't in. I had I didn't even think I was even in the top 10. And then all of a sudden, like a month and a half later, he announced me and Camp Agape, which is out of California, as the 2 winners for that event. And he's never done that challenge since. And it was just really cool, like that he called me out on that. I got to have that phone call with him. He was such a genuine person, blocked out everything from his Laguna House beach out there on the shore, and said, I want to understand you. And just like so genuine with what my conversation was, and like said, hey man, here's some people where you live. I know a lot of people there. Go tell them you're friends with Ed Milet and things like that. I'm just amazing, life-changing call, man. And it was so cool to have him on.
All right. So I want to stay here for a minute, if that's okay.
Yeah, totally.
All right. So what was, your 1 minute video? What did you say on that video? You know what I mean? What are you passionate? So what is Erik Allen passionate about? Is it the same as it was back then, or has it changed now?
It might have changed a little bit, but really the end goal is the same. My passion is really to make an impact, and that's very generic, but I came from the broken home. So I want to show people that our past and other people's opinions do not affect our future, and we can make a change at any point. And so my goal now is to break those chains that have held my family down from abuse, rejection, addictions, things like that, and give my kids the better life than I had. And my wife came from that sort of same background in her household. And so we're on this mission to really change the Allen tribe moving forward, right? Like my end goal is to have that property that I can pee off the front porch. And, if I can do that, my neighbors aren't, they're not close, right? So I want that property, and not just to say I've got property, but to say, you know what, if my family ever needs a place to escape, they can come out to this property. Right. And so that's that end goal, is really just that make that impact and hopefully show people that, look, man, whatever you've gone through, it was for a purpose. And yes, it sucked. And yes, it still sucks some days, but it doesn't define you. You can make that change at any point.
And I think that has to do with a lot of entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah.
The people's stories. My story is my dad died when I was 12 of hairy cell leukemia from Agent Orange, and he was in the Air Force, right? And so we went from the nice side of town to the bad side of town, right? Because we couldn't afford anything, and then we were on this and this.
Yeah.
And he was a breadwinner, and so, but that doesn't mean, because a lot of people think, and I'm not trying, that because of we're born with money, just because we're, the nationality, maybe who we are, whatever. But realistically, they don't understand that not everybody is, born that way. I was on the wrong side. I was born in Burlingame, which should mean I should have a lot of money. But then we moved to Colorado and California, and whenever my dad's next advancement went, he was gone when I was 12. And so we were poor, right? I was telling somebody I think I had 2 pair of pants and 3 shirts in high school, right? That's it.
Yeah.
Now I have way more than that, but we won't get into that.
Sure.
Right. Just because, you add stuff and you gain weight, you don't get rid of it, but I'm on that challenge. I'm losing weight now. So, cause I'm tired of being fat.
Come on.
But you know how it is. It's just things happen in life. But back to what you're saying about how, what you want, that property where you can do what you just said you can do. Well, that was my wife came to me 2 years ago and said, I want to be away from people when I retire. Right. And so we bought 32 acres up in a place close to us, and that's where we're building our forever home on. So we found 32 acres sounds like a lot, but it really isn't. It's amazing that you can still see the houses, right? It's not 100 acres. It's not 200 acres, but it's enough to where you have enough room to be away from people.
Yep.
So,
absolutely.
And I totally, when you're talking, I'm like, oh man, he's me.
Yeah.
He just got a good beard.
Yep.
I get about 2 inches, and then I'm like, I gotta cut it. I can't do it. So
the first couple of weeks suck, man, because they start curling over and your face gets all itchy, man. But you get past that, and then it's all right.
I just knew so many people who grew them with COVID and kept them. I'm like, man, I should have done that, but oh well. All right, so that was a great thing that you won, and it changed your life. All right, so how did that change your life?
For me, that conversation with Ed, like he was so encouraging to me. And I think to have that outside source of someone like Ed to speak life into me. And when I first came across him, I was like obsessed. I was like watching all of his shows. I went and got his book. I read it several times. Like whatever he's doing something right. And I want to do exactly that, right? You got to surround yourself with the right people that are going to lift you up, and they're either going to carry you on or lift you up, or they're going to take you back, right? Or, get you out of that. And so I knew that I had this connection with him that I was like, dude, I want to be like him. So the way that he changed my life was, one, just speaking life into me. Like I didn't have that mentor that was like, dude, you're on the right path. Keep fighting. Do not give up. Keep going through this. Here's some great connections locally that you can go talk to. And the fact that he even had that phone call with me, it was supposed to be 20 minutes. We ended up talking for 30. great guy. And just that encouragement that he fed to me just fired me up and really helped me to set new goals. I wasn't thinking big enough on my goals at that time, in that call. And man, did he just say, dude, you can do whatever you want to do. You can get that property. You can do whatever you want with that and just keep fighting and don't give up. It's going to come. And so that really encouraged me to just keep fighting.
Yeah, I mean, it's as I found doing the Inner Edison podcast that you need a mentor, you need a coach, you need a quarterman, whatever you want to call them. You need that person in your life to help you, because I think one of the problems is as an entrepreneur coming where we came from, we always think that we're not good enough. We need to do, we don't, am I good? Am I doing the right thing? Everything going the right way? You have all these questions and you don't want to just ask, you can't ask an employee or you can't ask a certain person, and you don't always want to ask your wife because they're going to tell you the truth.
Right. Yep.
Right. And it was funny because of how your wife was telling you about how your name and all that. So my wife came up with the Inner Edison, right? Because I couldn't come up with the name. It was perfect for what we wanted. Yep. And then same recently with Helping the Brave, we're trying to come up with the slogan and I couldn't come up. And she's like, what about this? I was like, where are you coming from? She's a nurse at Kaiser. It's like, really? How do you...
That's awesome.
But our wives are very important to me anyway. I'm sure she's important to you too, and your kids and everybody. So
absolutely, yeah. I mean, I've said it since day one. She's definitely that angel that saved me from that craziness I was living in for a long time.
Right, and you want to surround yourself from people who are better than you. You shouldn't be the smartest person in the room. You should be the dumbest person in the room, and it's okay to feel uncomfortable because we're not used to. The more you feel uncomfortable, the better off you're going to be, and the more you're going to grow. Right.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. And that's why I was so pumped to be at Prosperity Camp, because I knew going into that everybody there was basically like killing it in whatever their business was. And I felt, for me walking in, I was going, I'm the low man on this totem pole. I have so much to learn. And I think I took like 50 or 60 pages of notes. Like I was sitting in the front row the whole time. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so good, man. I got to go home. And it opened up doors for awesome shows for me to be on, awesome guests to be on my show, and just really fired me up and got some really good relationships from that event.
Cool. Yeah, I find with going to, a lot of people ask me, why do you keep going back to Steve Sims speakeasies, right? It's because everybody in the audience could actually be up on stage. It's amazing how these people are, but like you said, they're so down to earth. They don't know that. Not that they don't know it, but it's not important to them to tell you who they are, right? They just, and when you come back from there, first of all, and he asked me, to do a testimony why I keep coming back. And I hated to say, the reason I keep coming back is the people in the audience. Right. That's what I told him.
Yeah, sure.
Right. I said, I get a lot out of what you bring, but I get a lot more from the people and the connections I meet in the audience and when I grow from this. And so I explain, and that's why when COVID has taken us away from these and they've all been virtual, I miss it's not so much what they're telling me on the screen or up on stage. It's the person next to me. What do you do? What are you going through? And can we help each other? The person over here, can we help each other? I mean, I came back just like you did from your thing with Steve Sims. Is I had 20 different podcasts from it, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And speakers, the speakers like, yeah, no problem, because they're all connected and they're like, okay, well, if one of my people asks you, you're going to do it, right? Yes, I'm going to do it.
Right. Yeah. That's awesome.
All right. So so 2 podcasts.
Yep.
And then, so I know you do it, eventually it would be nice to not have to work. Right.
Right. Yep. The end goal is definitely to go full time as a podcaster, voiceover, content creator, speaker, things like that. Yeah.
Well, and I'm just going to throw this out here. Anything I can do to help you, let me know.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I mean, because it's about helping people along the way. That's all it's about, right? Absolutely. The more we help, the more we get. People have to realize you have to give to get.
Yeah. So. Absolutely. Thank you for that.
No problem. All right. So what's going next for you? Where are you going from here? Right. I know you're going to Secret Knock and that, but I'm saying what's the next thing for you or what you can help with?
Yeah. So this year, like you mentioned, I definitely set this goal to be a guest on 100 podcasts this year. And so that was a big goal of mine to really just kind of get my name out there. And then next year, we're going to really take it to a tactical level. How can I take my story? How can I take the coaching that I've done with some podcasters? How can I take, the morning routines and the consistency and surrounding yourself with the right people and really tactically help people get to a level that they want to get to? And yep, I still work a full-time job, but that's not the end goal, right? The end goal is hopefully within the next 12, 15 months, we can walk away and go, man, now I'm making a bigger impact. I'm able to help more people. And so going into 2022, my coaching courses will start launching, things like that. I've got a brand new website that's being built right now. That's going to be launching in just another month or so. So really excited to really take my voiceover, content creation, speaking, and coaching courses to another level in 2022.
All right. So let's get into that.
Yeah.
All right. So basically you're talking, so your website, that's just about who Erik Allen is, or what is that about?
It's erikallenmedia.com, but it's kind of like an older version of what I do today. So it talks about my podcast and, my voiceover and stuff like that, but been working with an awesome guy named Mike, the makeover master. And he's been building out this website, him and his team, for the last month, and been seeing really cool details and snippets of it. And looks amazing. So really excited to launch that officially. And I think it'll switch over sometime in November or in October, I believe, actually.
All right. So what do you do coaching on?
So I've coached folks that are just thinking about doing podcasting, or early podcasters, on really like, how do you get your name out there as a podcaster? How do you get ranked on Apple? How do you get those big name guests? And really the way that you get those big name guests is you just be real with them. So many people, and I did too when I first started, when I was trying to reach out to guests, and I have this template and I just change the name and like email them or shoot them a message, right? And I wasn't getting traction. And then one day I was like, all right, I'm going to change things up. So I pulled out my phone and literally did a 30-second video talking directly to that person I wanted on my show, mentioning something that they're actually doing currently, or they've got something coming up, and go, man, let me help you promote that for you. I'd love to have it on my show. And I've never been rejected that way. And I've booked 99% of my guests for my own podcast through Instagram Messenger with those videos.
Really? How long is your videos? Like a few seconds?
I go 30 seconds max. Yep. 30 seconds max.
I'll have to start using that.
Yeah. I've never gone over 30 seconds. I really I'll redo the thing like 100 times until I get it under 30 seconds and get that message clear. But then I just shoot it to them in their Instagram Messenger. And that's how I was able to book Sean Whelan and Tim Story and Brad Lee and Bedros Koulian and Jim the Rookie Morris and all those guys that have come on my show via that route.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you were talking about how you help early podcasters and how to, and your ranking. So how have you found to get your ranking on Apple?
So you kind of have to play the game a little bit. So one, you don't want to stack your reviews, right? Because then you've got like 800 reviews on the same day, but you want to slowly take that process of reaching out to your friends, reaching out to your connections, saying, hey, would you be open to leave me an honest review on Apple, and maybe shoot 10 a day or 5 a day to folks that right? And as they do that and it starts to build up, you'll get ranked up in Apple. I don't know the algorithms with Apple so far, but by doing that process, my Erik Allen show in January of 2021 launched 133 or ranked 133 on the Apple podcast for entrepreneurs in the US. And I was like, I didn't even know how I was even getting there. I was just getting a bunch of reviews throughout the last couple months. And then something clicked on the Apple algorithms and said, hey, this guy's ranking. And so was able to get that screenshot, which is great. And then in Father's Day this year, I actually had 10,000 downloads on that show. So it was a big accomplishment, big year for me this year so far.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Because that's where you start making money. 10,000.
Right. Yeah. It's been fun.
You get $1.
Right. Yeah. It's not too much, from that ranking, but and I also coach early podcasts on how to monetize your podcast. Right. I mean, so like you get paid that way, but I get, I do a lot of different things with guests that want to come on my show. I do things with, sponsors and businesses and stuff that want to advertise. And so that's been helping me a ton this year. In fact, all sponsorships for my show and voiceover work paid for my Secret Knock event this year.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Because I mean, talking about, what we were just talking about is, I lost my trainer of thought for a second, but about the podcast and ranking and how that, I mean, that's really important to get people to help you do the reviews for you. And getting downloads, and that's what I was the monetizing, right? Mm-hmm. Some people want to get famous and monetize this and make money by all the downloads, and other people use it for what they do for a living, right? As a podcast. Yeah. So totally. The question is, what are you, what's your purpose on what you're doing? Because that's different on how you do your podcast and how you monetize it and what you're doing. My Real Estate Jerky radio show is not about, getting a ton of downloads, and it's about getting the word out that, during the downturn that we had, a lot of millennials were like, my parents lost their house. I don't want to own a home. And the only way to build personal wealth for most people is through home ownership. And it's the only way you can leverage owning something at such a way that you make so much more money from it. So that, you know, and that was the whole purpose of getting the real estate show, was that getting that word out and educating people. And we're doing it. I mean, we have 51 to 71,000 people listen to the radio show weekly. We don't know exactly, because, you have no way to really tell if they're there, but that's what they tell us. And then, our downloads are okay. They're not amazing, but that's not, I have not pushed that side. It's really, but they're starting to come over to my lives, right? I have learned to take some of those people and bring them over to, the lives I do. So it's important to find out why you're doing what you're doing in your plan, right?
100%. Yeah. I think when I started podcasting, I had no intention of ever making money from it. I did it because I loved it. I was fascinated with people's stories. So I wanted to talk with them about that. Like, I started Top Rated May in 2017. I didn't start monetizing it until 2020, till the middle of 2020. In fact, when I first started, I didn't even know what Apple Podcast was. I was just recording video and uploading it to YouTube and Facebook. And then about a year in, someone's like, "Hey man, I can't find your podcast on Apple." I was like, "What the heck is that?" Like, I was like, I had no idea. So I just started like changing it up, and now I upload to YouTube and Facebook and IGTV and Apple and Spotify and all that fun stuff too. But I think if you can get to that point, like where if you're going to do podcasting, like you said, do it for your business, to promote your business, right? Or helping people, impacting people through your story or tips on how to grow in personal development or real estate, whatever it is. Do it because you love it, because you're never going to be that Joe Rogan guy unless you're just really, really cranking for a long time, right? And so I go into podcasting just doing it because I love it. And if the money comes, awesome, but I never try to push it. And the numbers, I never worry about downloads. The only reason I know that I hit 10,000 downloads was because I was kind of eyeing the number as I got close. I happened to go, "Oh man, I'm almost to 10,000 downloads." And I kind of watched it then, but then I was like, whatever. I don't even pay attention to the numbers. I do podcasting because I love it. And then now I just want to show people, look, when you're going to start a podcast, you're going to suck and you're going to not like it very well. But if you can get through the first 100 episodes, then you've got it all settled in. I think that's that kind of magic number where, 90% of podcasts don't make it to episode 100. So if you can hit that 100, then you've got it kind of settled in, and then you've got to make some tweaks now. Okay, now do you want to monetize it? Okay, let's figure out how to do that.
Right. Most podcasts don't make it to episode 10.
Right. Yeah. It's crazy.
Because you start it and you're like, wow, this is a lot of work. How am I going to who's going to edit it? How am I going to change it? Are we doing video? Are we doing just voice? What are we doing? What services? What's this? What's that? What mic do I need? What lighting do I need? As you can tell, I'm wearing a hat, so I don't have good lighting right now. I don't have them turned on. But there's so much to it. What computer should I use? What's this? What's that? People are, and it's like, doesn't matter. Right. Use your phone, use whatever, just start it, because it's the first episode's going to be horrible. And then your 20th episode is going to be totally way better. And you should be listening to yourself, even though we hate listening to ourselves, because you have to know if you're saying, so this, you say these words that you're like, wow, why did I say that?
Yep. Totally.
And they're like, it's silent. It's okay to have a pause. The pauses are good, and that's the same reason I do my Inner Edison is I want to talk to people. I love the stories, and I want to know why they did what they did and how come they're doing what they're doing.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Because I mean, and I've had people where they're like, I could tell you were not interested because I'm like, no, you don't understand. Some of the lives I do, some of the comments don't come through because they didn't click on the StreamYard to let them come through. So I look over to see if there's any comments on Facebook. And they're like, you don't understand. I was totally engaged. I'm trying to get make sure we get all the comments and everything and move forward. But on just podcasting, it's different. You just have that person look at the camera. And that's one of the problems is looking at the camera, right? Because if you look at the camera, you can't see the person.
Right. Yep. I had to train my eyes. I did that forever. I would always look at the monitor, and even now my setup, if I look down, that's where my monitor is. But here, I had to train myself to just look into the camera lens for the last couple of years, man. And I think that's the best route to go.
Or what I do is I have a monitor so far back that the thing's on top of it. So if I'm like,
totally.
I cheated because I want to see you as I'm talking to you,
Right. Yep. Yeah. Totally.
And I know we're just bullshitting, but this is what's important about these podcasts is it's not all about every little bit. It's about getting a connection with the guests. It's getting to find out how we can help each other, how you can help them. And if there's any way down the road, we both, I'm sure, would help each other no matter what.
For sure. Absolutely. I love the community that I've got and the relationship that I've got through podcasting, being a guest and having guests on my show some of the best people in my life have come through podcasting.
Right. And I mean, and one thing that if you're going to start a podcast, you need to know is record a ton. And just because you recorded it doesn't mean you have to use it.
Right.
Right. I've had a couple of people where it sounded like we were arguing, like we were married or something in a bad relationship because I was like, oh, because I always try to make sure that if someone says something at really high level, right, I bring it down to where everybody might not understand what they're saying. So I want to make it normal, right? It's like I was in the medical field. We talked layman terms. We didn't talk medical terms when you talk to somebody, right? That's if you did medical terms, it's like you're talking down to them.
Right.
And sometimes these mindset coaches and those type of people are like, they say these big terms and you're like, oh, so we're basically saying what we put out there, we get back. Oh, no, that's not what I'm saying. Yes, it is exactly what you're saying.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's important to understand that just because you think it's this way doesn't mean that I can't relay it here. And it's not the same thing. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
You understand what I'm talking about?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, being on other shows this year and then having, those mindset coaches or certain coaches, man, they speak this other language, where if they could just dumb it down, man, it would hit home with so many more people.
Right. But, and I think, maybe they just don't know that. Right.
Right.
And that's why I like Steve Sims. Right.
Yep.
I know I keep saying that he needs to start paying me for every time I say his name.
Yeah.
Because he has his, not great. Jay Abraham said to him, you have more I can than IQ. Right.
Yes.
I was like, yeah. And, and then his wife told, they were at a thing and everybody's talking about their superpower. What's his superpower? And his wife said he's ignorant.
Okay. Yeah.
And he's like, and she's like, because you don't know any better. You just do. Right. And that's the thing is it's okay. You don't have to just do you. Mm-hmm. Enough people will come because they like who you are. Yes. Stop being somebody else. Yep. And that's what happened with me on the radio. It took 2 years. Then I just didn't care anymore. And because Brad Lee said, once you get to a point where you just don't care that the camera's there and the stuff's there and you just talk and who you are, that's when you really take off.
Yep.
Well, I didn't, I heard that right around the same time I started doing it. I'm like going, wow, no wonder. And now, I mean, our downloads are tripled compared to where, on that Monday through that week with what people are listening to. Plus we do more political stuff now. We get in all the races. I say my point of view all the time. I don't care. I'm fair. I don't want to say I'm fair and balanced like Fox News says, but basically I want to know why you think the way you do, whether it's politics, whether it's owning a home or not owning a home. Why do you think that way? Because I want to understand that. So I understand where you're coming from, right? The only way that we can get along is understanding where other people come from and understanding why they do what they do.
Yes. Yep.
I'm sorry. This is your podcast. I mean, it's my podcast about you, but I'm talking more. I'm sorry.
Oh, dude, it's all good, dude. I love it, man.
But you understand. I mean, it's, and a lot of people, I was doing a podcast and the guy's talking and then I brought back what he said. Right. And I'm like, he goes, wow, you were really listening later. He said that to me. He goes, I was shocked. I was like, that's what you're supposed to do. Right. You talked about, winning that award. I want to know all about that. That's what the one thing when you're doing a podcast, you need to listen to the other side more than you talk. So you can take the podcast where you want it to go.
Yes.
Because I don't know always from the beginning to the end, exactly where we're going. But along the way, I find things that is exactly what I want to talk about and getting to know who you were and are regarding why you do your podcast. How did that phone call change your life? Those are important things because people need to understand that people are going to come across in this world that you're doing your stuff, whether it's podcasts, your work, whatever. They're going to change your life if you let them.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? And you need to take opportunities that come because if you don't, you're going to wish you did.
Yeah. If you have that gut feeling that it's going to be something, that's going to make your life better or make an impact, then you have to go for it. Absolutely.
And sometimes you don't know that though.
Yep. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
I mean, you could have said, no, I'm not going to that camp. Right.
Right.
The Greg Reed's event. I can't make it. I don't really have the money right now. Everything's going. but it changed your life. It's like because I get coached by Steve Sim and they go, why are you doing that? Why are you doing all this other stuff? It's like, sometimes you can't afford what you're doing, but you need to do it so you can afford it.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I mean by that?
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. Cause I always tell people, once you put it out, the money will come if that's what, ultimate goal is to,
Sure.
You can't go into some place and try to get all this business. It's like with the Rotary and other functions I do. You go in there to help, serve, give, and that's how you get back. And it's the same thing with podcasts. If people know that you're trying to do a podcast and you're trying to make money from it, they're not going to listen to you.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
How many people have you heard where they said, yeah, so-and-so's kid is, he's not working now. He's going to be a successful podcaster.
Right. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that.
You really? I hear it all the time. Like, oh yeah, so-and-so. He's like, I'm like going, you have no idea how hard this work is.
Right. I mean,
right?
It's a pipe dream, right? Like if you want to be a full-time podcaster, it's possible. Right. And I'm not saying that you can't do it, but it takes a lot of work. And I think people, like you said, they go in there thinking it's just going to happen. And it takes so much work. And I do all the editing myself. I release a video and audio version. I'm up at 4 a.m. 6 days a week working on that stuff, man. And I make sure that it happens. And I like to have control over that. And so that's what I put out there. But I think some people, where they get into it, that I've coached and they're like, oh yeah, it's just going to be super easy. I just have to throw it on the internet. I'm like, no, there's a whole lot of hosting platforms you got to go through. And where are you going to edit it? And where are you going to push this out and things like that. And so, yeah, it's a crazy industry that I love.
Right. And go back to the editing part. That's huge, right?
Yeah.
Because unless you know how to edit or certain things, and the learning part, if you're going to do it, well, what software are you using? Are you using Riverside FM? You using StreamYard? You using Squadcast? What are you using? Because when I started with Squadcast, which was great. So if your Wi-Fi signal dropped to a certain point, it would still record you on your side, and then I would still record me, and there'd be no lag in it while we're doing it. Right? There would be while we're doing it, but I wouldn't know once it was put together.
Right.
Riverside FM was kind of the same thing, but the problem is you have to put all the different videos together and all the soundtracks together.
Oh, interesting.
Right. Into a thing. And same with Squadcast, right? It was like everything was separate. And then that's why I went to StreamYard. One, I can put the banners up there. I can put our names down there and it turns it, I could go directly to YouTube, right? Make a little things, we're done. Right.
Yep.
And so you need to find out what works for you going forward to make your life easy so you keep doing this. And it might be hiring somebody to edit your stuff. I know a few people who edit this stuff and one, they don't charge enough, but because it's a lot of work.
It is. It's a lot of work.
And how many episodes you're putting out? One a week? Because that means you got to pay, at the minimum I've heard is like $250 if it's a good editing. And it's probably more than that, right?
Yep. Yeah. I put out 2 to 3 episodes a week right now. So yeah,
for each one or for both, all 3?
2 of the Erik Allen show, 1 of the Top Rated MA show.
Well,
yep, yeah. So and I have some shows in my queue, which that's why I would just release 1 show of each per week. But I'm trying to play a little catch up and release 2 of the Erik Allen show so I can kind of clear out my queue for a bit.
Well, it's good to have, like, we're 4 to 5 weeks ahead, right? You have to be that because, things happen. Your guest doesn't show up. And that's the other thing I want to bring up since we're talking about podcasting. If you have a guest that shows up more than 5 minutes late, cancel the episode.
Yes.
Tell them they're going to have to reschedule because if they don't respect your time, you don't want them on.
Yep. Same way. I've done sales for 20 plus years and I always had like the 10-minute leeway when I was setting up calls with customers. If they didn't show up, I was hanging up. And with podcasting, I think that 5-minute rule is perfect. If they're going to be late more than 5 minutes, then, unless they've got a serious excuse, and most of them don't, or they're just made up, like, you don't want that guest on your show.
And they can, and sometimes someone will email you and say, hey, so-and-so had an issue with this, right? Or whatever. That's fine. I'll wait another few more minutes. But if you don't say anything and whatever, and I'm prior military, so on time is 10 minutes early for me. Right.
Yep.
So, and when these people are like, I'm on time, you're 5 minutes late. That's not on time. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. I didn't serve because I was a big stoner kid in high school. I got that one recruiting call and said a bunch of stuff that I shouldn't have said and never got a call back and then just went the wrong direction for a long time. But I'm big on being on time. So especially jumping on shows 2 to 3 minutes early, I like to jump on at least just to kind of even sit there and wait and make sure that all the connections are right and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, that's important because there's always technical issues. I mean, totally. I mean, I have Comcast here and I have direct connect. I mean, I don't use Wi-Fi in my servers right here, right? Routers right here. And there's times if I was on it dropped me. I'm like, I'm right here, right? Yeah, there's an elevator over here, which when I first got in this building, it didn't matter because nobody was in here because it was COVID, right? You know, they wouldn't use the elevator. Now, then when I already came back, the elevator go up and down. Luckily, I put soundproofing over there, but I can still hear it. But anyway, enough about me. Erik, anything else you want to add on today?
Man, I just want to say thank you so much for having me on the show. It's big stuff coming from Mind of Things, erikallenmedia.com. Like I said, we're going to be doing a lot more voiceover and content creation, brand videos and stuff like that in 2022, taking our speaking and coaching to another level. And then right now, I'm just loving to hopefully make an impact with my story and hopefully motivating someone to get out there and do some podcasting because it's just super fun.
Yeah, it actually really is. So erikallenmedia.com.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Go get the erikallen.media.
Yes. Erik Allen.
No, I'm just saying, go get that one.
Yeah.
There is one of those out there because I didn't realize that because Steve Sims did stevesims.media.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. I tried to look at erikallen.com when I first started getting into like URLs and website. And it's some dude with a big like 4x4 truck out in the Midwest, like country guy, like I'm like, wait a second, that's not me.
Well, go with the beard. What are you talking about?
Right. Yeah.
All right. Erik, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it. It was really nice getting to know you. Yeah. And if there's anything going in the future that you need help with, I mean, I'll give you my information when we're done here.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you so much, man. Truly an honor to be here, man. I really appreciate it.
I really appreciate it. Again, if you guys are listening today, I really appreciate you guys showing up and listening to this. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe. And again, Erik, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely.